After all, people like working with people, and people like working with people they like.
Bootstrapping, it's a hard journey in itself, right?
I think one thing that we're looking for when we hire the right people is ownership.
The best hires I've ever had are the ones where they come to me saying, I did this, I found this problem, I solved it this way.
Software development was always like 20% for generating new code and 80% with dealing with the code you generated.
Building that environment of comfort and confidence brings out the best in people, right?
So I think the most challenging step for a lot of people is to open up the business and not give up.
Welcome to the podcast From Cold to Close. My name is Saeed and I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, a growth company that works with professional services firms from around the world to help them increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. My guest today is Lenar Mukhamadiev, CEO and founder of iDelSoft, a software development and staff augmentation company that's helping US companies access global talent for the past 5 years. What makes Lenar particularly interesting is that he successfully bootstrapped his company to work with everyone from Y Combinator startups to Fortune 500 companies, all while maintaining 100% ownership. He's also currently serving as interim CEO of a B2C e-commerce marketplace, giving him a unique perspective on both sides of the business world. Lenar has some fascinating insights on how AI is reshaping software development, including his belief that we're entering into an era where anyone can code their way to their first million in revenue. Whether you're a founder looking to scale your tech team globally, curious about the future of software development, or interested in hearing from someone who's built a successful business entirely through organic growth, this conversation is going to be packed with actionable insights. Lenar, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Said. Yeah, good to be here, and thanks for introduction.
No worries at all. I always like to start off with a little bit more about who you are. And obviously there are viewers and listeners out there who don't know who Lenar actually is. Could you share a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey and who you are and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, thanks. At the beginning, like from before starting iDelSoft, I was a regular software developer working for Fortune 500 companies and for for startups. And I was trying different hats, like I was like, okay, should I be like in testing part? Should I be in the more back end, front end part? So I was playing around. That gave me perspective on how to be a good software engineer that can wear multiple hats. And at one day, like I was thinking, like, how can I utilize my skills? And then I started this company called iDelSoft. Before, I was doing all software development, all testing, from end-to-end development, basically all by myself. It was fun times. I was doing it part-time while I was working full-time. I was mainly partnering with local small startups, local businesses to either develop mobile apps, web apps, or to automate certain workflows. So that was my bread and butter. And then we started growing. I think one of the great pushes for our company was during COVID, a lot of companies went to remote. And that gave us perspective, being, okay, we all working remotely, so I can scale. And I started hiring people from all over the world. At first, obviously, it was like very challenging because we were entering regions, for example, as Latin America, Europe, Middle East, South Asia, where we didn't have any cultural connections. We didn't have any network over there. So it was hard to hire engineers first. We made so many mistakes. But eventually, I think we found the code how we can screen and vet the great engineers for our projects. And as our projects grew, as our startups grew to becoming more like established companies with a solid 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure revenue companies, they started requiring more development talent. And that's when our growth happened, basically. One of our advantages is that every developer that work with us, every QA engineer, product manager, every project manager, every DevOps, cloud AI engineers that work with us, they go through rigorous testing process internally through AI-powered coding assignments, and also like technical and non-technical interviews that make sure that they align culturally with the company and with the goals of the company. So since a lot of companies are smaller startups cannot take a risk to hire the wrong person, right? If they hire the wrong person, most likely it will negatively affect the revenue, it will negatively affect their performance of the company, and it will obviously negatively affect the team, because if they see like one person is not performing well, other team members also might get the understanding that maybe that's what I should do, you know. So yeah, a lot of companies rely on us when it comes to screening, vetting, and bringing engineers. And so far, it's been doing great. We have a presence almost in every continent. We have like developers working from around 12 countries right now, and we're planning to extend more. And yeah, that's a little bit intro about us, about the company.
I love it. It's such an interesting journey, especially I love the fact that you started off essentially working as a side hustle, growing it and figuring things out along the way. And now you've got to a point now where there must have been a lot of optimizations to your offer, the way you moved in the market to eventually come to where you are now. What you say makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense that these types of organizations, startups and things, they can't risk huge amount of capital, or coders are expensive, right? Software engineers are expensive, and if you get the wrong ones, it can be a big mistake, right? Or whatever it might be. So it's really interesting to hear that it's a vetted approach so that it's much more reliable for an organization to trust the talent that they're bringing in. In terms of, you previously mentioned that you bootstrapped iDelSoft to 100% ownership. Can you walk us through the challenges and advantages of building a company entirely through organic growth rather than external funding? Bootstrapping, it's a hard journey in itself, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
I think, yeah, it's a great question. After all, like I believe that as a service-based company, and service-based company is human-to-human business, right? Compared to the SaaS companies where you have a solid platform, you have that working solution, you can sign up by yourself and then start using it right away, right? When it comes to service-based company, the entire sales process, let's say, is based on the personality of people you're working with. After all, people like working with people, and people like working with people they like, you know? So I think the one part is great, like when you make a good impression, when you speak their language. I'm talking about technical language, when you can understand their challenges and you can create like custom and unique solution for their specific problem, because every company has unique challenges. Across the industry, maybe there are a few challenges that are pretty common across all companies, but every company has a unique challenge, you know. To understand that and to give a right solution and to give the right ROI, I'll say like return on investment, I think that's the best way to go. Another great option is obviously return on the word of mouth, which also great. When you do a great job for one company, they recommend you to another company. And that's how usually our growth happened like in the past couple of years, and it still keep happening. Third thing, which is kind of similar to one or two, is power of network, right? A lot of people tend to avoid things like community conferences, meetups, and etc. But for us, it worked out super well. You know, we are part of several communities. We support several technical meetups around the world. We support several around conferences, online chats, you know, like technical challenges, Slack channels, Slack groups, Facebook groups, LinkedIn communities. I think this is all very helpful for a founder to find good customers and good partners.
I think that you hit the nail on the head, right? Especially when you said that, especially when you're working in a service business and you're working in B2B, it's people, it's relationships, it's how you are with your network, how you're able to build those connections, right? And whether it's dealing with a customer, whether it's dealing with internally, you deal with people on a day-to-day basis. And so people need to be what you're very good at, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. So you're currently CEO of two companies, right? You've got one B2B that you own 100% on, and you're also an investor and interim CEO of a B2C company. How do you find the balance between these roles? Obviously, everyone says like you don't want to spread yourself too thin, you focus on one thing. And here we have an entrepreneur, the CEO of two companies in completely two different kinds of verticals, right? B2C and B2B. And what are the key differences in running that B2B versus a B2C operation?
Yeah, I think the balance is hard. And with B2C, I think it's harder. You have to dump more money into marketing all the time, because with B2B, for example, you have customers coming in and they stay with you like for a year or two or three, you know, like, and they consistently keep bringing you revenue. With B2C, you always have to fight for the customer all the time, because one customer, they can come in, they usually buy one item in a year, you know, they can buy like 3, 4 items in a year, right? But the check's also smaller, you know. So I think that with B2C approach is definitely you need a good team. And I'm happy to have a good team for B2C business that I'm running. It's a company called Tease. It's great. Like thankfully they handle majority of the stuff themselves for me. So I have to make like effort on strategy, on directions and etc. While with B2B, I still have to be present in operations, like meaning that I still have to talk to customers, I still have to talk to the team, still have to talk to the developers that we have on the projects, I still like be involved because service-based company, as I mentioned, like people like working with people.
Yeah.
And if you don't show up for founders and for customers on the right time, you might lose a deal, and losing a deal in this case might be actually very challenging, painful, because when you lose the customer in B2B space, you immediately losing like $1,000 of money, But in B2C space, like you lose a customer, obviously this customer can also purchase some big stuff, right? But the risk is lower, because you always can go and find another customer. While in B2B space, I think it's pretty saturated and there are less amount of companies than amount of people, The
Yeah.
people, there are a lot of people, but not enough companies,
Yeah, it's such a great point, and I love the differences that you've highlighted there, especially in the involvement element of a B2B versus a B2C and the requirement for dumping more into marketing. And it makes a lot of sense primarily because of the relationship driven approach when it comes to B2B, whereas it's much more, I feel, transactional, if I can say, with a B2C customer, right? And it's very much a case of it's less relationship, more transaction. So it's really
Exactly.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In terms of when you were discussing your B2C element, you talked a lot about team, right? You've got a great team that allows you to think about strategy and think about focusing on the future rather than actually being stuck in the day to day. Talk to me about your approach on building a good team. Obviously, you've built two companies now. How important is building a team? What's your process in building the right kind of team for the organization?
Yeah, I think team is actually one of the most, if not the most important thing when you're
Mm,
building a company, right? Obviously, every founder probably dreams about cloning themselves and finding another person that's similar to their skills, I'm
mm,
dreaming about that too. Like, I was like, that'll be great to have someone like me, who can get like hands wet in sales, marketing, recruiting,
mm,
operations, and finances and other part, But we have to be realistic, right? You cannot like hire a second person. Obviously, you can bring VAs and stuff like that, but you still have to be the final boss that approves every decision, right? And with importance of the team, I think one thing that we're looking for when we hire the right people is ownership, right? I think those days when you hire people to do certain tasks, like a limited amount of tasks, are kind of over, or it's going to be over soon, especially with the help of AI, right?
yeah.
AI can automate majority of the mundane tasks, like boring work, let's say, right, for you at a fast scale and mass scale. And we do have some certain AI practices internally also. But having ownership is actually a great skill. When I was software engineer, I often overlooked it, to be honest.
Mm.
And I only understood this importance only when I started running my own company, and I had to learn it hard way,
I know the
Uh,
feeling. I know the
yeah, yeah.
feeling.
But yeah, ownership actually is a skill where when you have a challenge in front of yourself, even
Mm,
the challenge is outside of your scope, you still have to get involved, still have to figure it out. And if you cannot figure it out, you have to talk to the right people. You have to find common ground and, I don't know, ask ChatGPT, like for
mm,
some guidance and everything, I think the high level of ownership is definitely something that we're looking for, meaning that, hey, if I give you this challenge, if I give you this task, if I give you this problem, I want you to control everything end to end and come up with the right solution at the end.
yeah.
Accountability is also important, Obviously, you are allowed to fail. I mean, that we cannot expect you to deliver 100% at every challenge that you have, every task you have. You're allowed to fail, you're allowed to learn from failures, you're allowed to make mistakes. That's totally normal. And we have to give the freedom to the people we're working with because some people come from different industries. They might not have experience in this specific industry and they're allowed to fail, they're allowed to try out and, like in the process of figuring out. So I think that's the one thing that when you're building a team and you're hiring the right person is you have to look at the things like, okay, if this person is gonna back off when they see a hard challenge, or if they're gonna go all the way in and fail with honor,
Yeah.
I think the second option is more preferable.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more, especially with the two key points you mentioned there, the ownership and accountability. Even in my own journey and growing my own business, that I can speak from my own journey, the best hires I've ever had are the ones where they come to me saying, I did this, I found this problem, I solved it this way. And by the time it's got to me, they've just told me, okay, well, this was the issue. I figured it out, but just letting you know this was the issue. They took ownership of that as their own problem rather than a problem they could hand off to me. And then the worst ones are typically the ones that go, okay, well, a problem has arisen. Yeah, not every single problem you can solve, and you should be able to be comfortable to go to leadership whenever it's got to a certain point. But at the same time, you need that responsibility, accountability, and ownership in your decision making, because that leads to growth, right? And we're a growth podcast right now. We talk about growth mindset, growth approach, and having that approach to doing the best for yourself is only the best way to be within a team. In terms of your company, you see iDelSoft specifically specializes in connecting US companies with global talent, particularly in Latin America, right? What makes Latin American talent so attractive to US companies beyond just time zone alignment?
Yeah, that's a great point. Time zone alignment is definitely number one thing that's important. A little bit backstory. Our company had roots in Europe, particularly in Eastern Europe. Like we were working with countries from Eastern Europe, developers from Eastern Europe, and it was working out well. But then we understood that, hey, we cannot force them to work late hours because of the US teams, because it's impossible. We have to find another solution. That's why we went into Latin America. We still have great talent in Europe. We still work with European developers and Asian developers and African developers. There are amazing talent out there, right? But yeah, LATAM is definitely, time zone is great. Not only time zone, but also culturally, I think they are pretty similar. Like this is both regions that was also mainly inhabited by European settlers in first, and they have the similar mentality with the US based companies and the North American companies in general, right? I think that's another thing. And the very young population, the population grows and they start learning English. And I'm a fan of like rock music, for example. When I watch like rock music concerts live from Latin America, it's always like super fun, like it's like massive amount of people. They are having extreme fun and they are enjoying their life and they are pretty positive. I think that's the one thing that's also like, I'm from Europe originally. In Europe, you're taught to hold off emotions, like not to show emotions at first, like that's basically the thing. When I'm working with Latin American developers, it's actually opposite. They are pretty cheerful, like, and always like open for new challenges and very happy, and they take it, everything seems easy for them, like I know it's not, but
They got great weather over there. That's what it is, I'll tell you.
probably, yeah. Yeah, probably that's one thing too, probably, yeah, I agree. Yeah, English speaking levels actually getting better, and people are very westernized, and they grow up watching movies and stuff in English. It's great, and no wonder, like a lot of like fan companies, like companies like Facebook, Netflix, Amazon, and Google, they all have offices in these regions. Like in Central America, in Mexico, like in South America. So I think it's going to be a great hub for talent. There are a lot of like great opportunity over there, not only from talent perspective, but also from business perspective. I know like US companies, like they operate solely like on these regions, like, and they're doing fine, like, but the company is founded by Americans in the US, but their business operations and the whole money making process is done in these regions. So there is a lot of like growth and prosperity over there, I think, happening in the future, and we are happy to support that, and we're happy to be part of it.
Absolutely. LATAM market is known for its rapid growth, right? And it's getting to that point of developing to the point where it is. So I think it's really interesting that market, it works very well and aligns very well with the US market. You work with everyone from Y Combinator startups to Fortune 500 companies. How do you adapt your approach when working with, let's say, a pre-seed startup versus a large enterprise? What are the different needs and challenges that you're solving?
I think the main challenge for early stage startups is obviously capital, right? They have a limited amount of funding for a project. Either they have like small investment, or either they're bootstrapping, and obviously they cannot lose time and they cannot lose capital on some experimental project, let's say, right? While corporate companies, they always experiment around certain field or a certain industry, and they can take this risk of experimenting and hiring, And smaller companies, they often like to hire people who can wear multiple hats, or be a number one designer, number one QA, number one backend developer, number one AI engineer, meaning that you'll be solo person specifically for this approach, right? While in larger companies, they already have some, we call them like scrum teams, development teams of 5 or 6, where they have like multiple QA engineers, multiple developers, like multiple AI engineers. So, and they have their own manager, and it's all like the hierarchy of the corporate culture. And it definitely, when you hire people, when we bring people in, when you take projects, we always have to look at this criteria if we're hiring the right people, because we had problems in the past when we were working for startup projects, and we hired people from corporations. They spend whole their careers in corporations, and when they come in, they cannot adjust, which is totally understandable because they came from a larger corporation where there was processes, there was rules, there was meetings, and there was certain deadlines, like, while in small companies, there are always like no rules, no process, chaos, like sometimes not even meetings, like people just working on their own, they just get things done. That's it. That's the perspective, that's a goal. And I think the challenge with early stage founders, also like pre-seed startups, is they often want people for a long run, and that can be part of the company for a long run, and they can grow with the company for a long run. While in the corporations, they might hire people for projects only, like for 6 to 12 months project, and you're going to be with us. And then we can say like, okay, we're done here, like I'll see you again if we have another project coming up, or they can change to another project. And, before it was always like high demand for developers because of these corporations also, because corporations, they interview hundreds of thousands of people in a month, and when they see a good engineer who is doing great at the interview, but they don't have a project for them, they just might hire them and keep them on the bench until new project coming up, and they could afford that to pay them salary. And so they can do nothing and wait until the right project comes up, right? That's one thing. And that created a shortage of good developers for startups in the past,
Okay.
because the big companies, they will be paying double, triple salary that startups can offer, and they keep them on the bench, and they cannot contribute to anything significant. That's why most startups, they went remote, because they will hire the best engineers from the time zones of similar to them, or from globally, from offshore, nearshore regions, and that's how they were able to grow. But now I think that everyone is in equal position, because corporations don't hire anymore for just sitting on the bench, like maybe they do, but they hire less. And they also like open to saving money, and they also open considering spending less on development. And with the AI, it's obviously very challenging and demanding area, where you want to implement AI, but you don't want to lose on good developers also. So I think everyone is in equal position right now, because both startups and corporations, they have the access to good developers, and there are a lot of great developers on the market, but most startups, they don't have time to vet them. I was mentioning before, corporations, they can spend like hours a month to vet and interview candidates, right? But startups, they want someone yesterday, and we take care of that, meaning that we already have vetted engineers in our database, in our network. And if we don't, we go to partner networks, and if not, we go to referrals, so we take care of everything for them. So the people that we bring into the projects, they can start deliver from day one.
Yeah. No, I think you've raised a really interesting point there around the way that larger corporations used to operate versus, I guess, startups, in the sense that you see a lot of articles of these larger corporations buying up talent, essentially, right? As you said, they essentially take them off the marketplace. These people can't go work in startups. They don't go to even start their own businesses. They don't go to raise their capitals, and they can be super talented, but they're earning 20, 30, K a month or whatever it might be, just to be cushy and not have to worry about it. And it's almost a symptom of taking away that level of that spark, that ambition, that go, okay, no, let's go for something and let's reinvigorate the economy.
Let's build something big,
build something big, exactly that. And so it's really refreshing to hear from you where you're saying, oh, it's now leveling out a little bit, and maybe they are still, but it's not nowhere near the same level as it used to be. And there's a real opportunity there, right, for aspiring developers to really build something worthwhile.
100%.
Yeah, no, 100%. You touched on AI there, the magic two-letter word not long ago. I guess AI is coming into every one of our lives, and you always see it somewhere, whereas like coding is now becoming much more accessible due to ChatGPT. And even we've had people on the podcast previously that said they're coders themselves, and they've said, I use ChatGPT to help me be more efficient with my coding. Are coding tools, are they changing everything, how things are working? Can you elaborate on your view that everyone can be a software developer now, or what would it mean for the industry?
I think more like everyone can be founder now, like
Yeah, okay, yeah, I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's changing definitely. So software development was always like 20% for generating new code and 80% with dealing with the code that you generated and dealing with scalability, infrastructure, and AWS and other stuff, right? So
Hmm.
testing. I think that's what was always like the case for software development.
Hmm.
Right now, we can generate as much code as possible with the help of like AI coding tools such as like
Hmm.
ChatGPT, Cursor, Anthropic, like Claude and Windsurf and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
it's obviously very easy to generate new code and build up. It's very easy to build MVPs even, like I
Mm.
know companies that has like 80% of the code generated by AI and they're doing well. But you still need human touch, like because, okay, you build some MVP, but it's like step one only of your journey, you need people to scale that. You need people with experience of maintaining it, like you need people with experience of fixing bugs because AI can generate as much spaghetti code as possible, right?
Mm.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect because after all, AI is relying on the real data from real world. And are humans perfect? I mean, not really. Not every developer writes perfect code, like it's totally okay that developers can write a bad code, and that's why like the AI is also learning on this code that was generated by humans,
Mm.
and sometimes it can make mistakes, so you
Mm.
cannot fully rely on it, like.
Mm.
But for throwing your idea to the market and getting feedback and iterate based on the feedback, I think it's a great tool. And
Mm.
AI is definitely changing not only AI code gen tools, but also like AI is changing the entire industries, like not only in software development but also in sales, marketing, like in other places. It's definitely going to be easier to automate and launch products, launch businesses from scratch. Even now, like it's way easier, right? But in the future, it's going to be even more easier unless we have AI agents that can act like humans, do like humans, and
Mm.
can understand nuances of software development at
Mm.
every level. I think software developer jobs are safe, but opportunities will still be there. Like we'll have plenty of opportunities for software developers in the future, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be zero opportunities, right? There's going
Mhm.
to be just less opportunities. Corporations are usually slower to adopt AI, and in case, like especially like corporations from enterprise industries like insurance companies, medical, and for security reasons, like they will be slower to adapt this, and they will still keep hiring developers in the future too. So
Mhm.
I think we're safe at the short run and long run. I don't know. As I mentioned, like unless we get like AI agents that can fully automate our work
Yeah.
and they can fully do everything that we do, like with attention to details, attention to nuances, I think we should be fairly okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting some of those insights that you shared. AI it scares a lot of people, but we're still early days and things can change over time. But it's obviously it's a tool to utilize and leverage, right? And
Exactly.
rather than anything else. In this segment of the podcast, we like to call the Entrepreneur's Room. And this is a series of questions we like to ask all of our guests to give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to understand how business owners think and operate in their business. So the first question I like to ask at this stage of the conversation is, how are you currently spending your days as the leader of the business?
Yeah, I think mornings are usually a lot of meetings with the team, just regular Scrum meeting. What have you done yesterday? What we plan to do today? And what are plans for any blockers or not? Like, so we usually try to get things done and in the mornings. During the day, it's a mix of operations, mainly emails back and forth with different people, with partners, with clients, with services, with tools. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of sport. So just during the day, I'm always like trying to find time for sport. I'm no more not like a gym guy, I would say, the
Yeah,
fitness guy. Like I'm more like a
active.
playing sports.
Yeah,
Like I play soccer on a
yeah.
weekly basis. I play hockey, ice
Mm.
hockey
Oh,
on a weekly basis. I play tennis, on a weekly basis. So I like these kind of like challenging sports where you work as a team or either individual sports where you like basically connect with different people and play against people, so you can win some games, you know. So family is important during the after hours, like between 5 and 8. I try to focus entirely on family because I believe that family is the most important thing in my life right now and in the future. And I think that having a healthy balance between family and the business is actually pretty important.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree with you more. Do you play paddle then?
Paddle, I play pickleball, but I never played paddle yet. Yeah, is
It's
this
getting
getting
really,
popular?
yeah, it's getting really big over here as well. So yeah, no, but I'm not surprised. I'm sure you'll pick it up at some stage if you're a sports.
Yeah, I saw my friends are playing it, but yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully one day we'll try it too.
Yeah, I'm sure. As a leader of the business, obviously, and you run two businesses, I'm sure you're looking at certain things when running the business. What are the most important metrics for you when running the business?
I think the strategy is very important, you know. Explaining the team and aligning with the team on short-term, long-term goals is pretty important. They have to know why they are here, you know, like if they're here only for money, totally understood, everyone is different, you know, like I don't blame you, but just deliver, you know, that's it, you know. But if you are here for a vision or if you are here for end result, for successful exit or successful like bonuses, you know, like and performance bonuses, etc., that's totally understandable too. So people are here for different reasons, you know. But the one thing I think is important is we have to be aligned on the same vision, and I think the first thing. Second thing, they have to really enjoy working here at the company. They have to come to every day. They have to wake up every day, not being afraid that, oh, they go into the toxic environment. They're going to work with the toxic people that they don't like. They're going to work with manager that's micromanage them, you know, like, and if they have this feeling, if they are afraid of working there, they're afraid of making mistakes, they're afraid of engaging with people, it's not going to work in my opinion, because they have to feel very comfortable, very confident in what they do, and they have to feel the security for their future and for their skills at the company. Because oftentimes, you know, we, as working at the corporate, we had the issues with toxic management or a toxic team, you know, like, and it's when you feel less motivated, you know. But we need people with the high motivation, and I think that having these two things that settle down here and provided to them, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think environment and building that environment of comfort and confidence brings out the best in people, right? And even if you look at it from an analogy of someone in a football team or a soccer team, as you would say, a player with a bit of confidence or has more motivation, he's more likely to do better on the pitch. And that works exactly the same
100%.
within an organization, right? In terms of then, obviously you're running two sets of businesses and you touched on the differences earlier. How are you currently growing the business? What specifically are you doing to grow the business in terms of business development and sales and marketing?
Yeah, for B2B, as I mentioned, like word of mouth and outreach, we have cold email campaigns, we have LinkedIn automations, we have events sponsoring, conference booth and communities, etc. I think that's the one for B2B, like for iDelSoft, that works the best so far. And another thing is for B2C, we have like influencer marketing. We also try to involve, you know, like have regular marketing, Google ads, Facebook ads, and other ads too. Like, and I've been actually like thinking of working with influencers for iDelSoft also,
Oh, wow.
because I feel like there are like really good voices in software development space and technology space, and that can be great for reaching out the right people that who can connect with us, you know. And marketing has never been easier at this stage with AI tools, with automations and everything. It's very easy to build up like creatives. It's very easy to build up some sort of like email campaigns and everything. And there's plenty of tools available with AI. It's really easy to create like a copy of emails and etc. But I will say that B2C and B2B marketing will emerge eventually. You know, like that's what I'm feeling. Because that one thing that worked on B2C space, it can be also adopted in B2B space and vice versa, you know.
Absolutely.
And I'm feeling like pretty excited about the future, you know, like for businesses, you know, like because a lot of companies, I know companies that serving in both industries, B2C and B2B, you know, and I think that's not how it's going to be in the future. Like I have a client that has been doing only B2C before, and now they're targeting B2B also, you know, and they're growing. Why not? Like if you can provide solution that people's problems, like you can target like any type of businesses, you know, and people.
I think that you've touched on it. You hit the nail on the head there in terms of that B2B, I think a lot of B2B, there's an understanding or a concept that you can't run ads for B2B. So especially maybe older, so a lot of our clients, when they come to us, they're professional services firms, they'll come to us and go, oh, we never run with B2B. We only grow through organic. We go to conferences, we speak. And then you go to, well, have you ever tried it? And he goes, we tried it. It was unsuccessful. B2C, it works. B2B, it doesn't. And then we go, it works. It works. You just need to do it right. And you might be scared to do it. And maybe because you don't have an expert with you. But if you have someone with you, trust me, it works, right? So I think it's really interesting you said that, because I definitely can see the convergence of the way B2C works now and the way B2B works in terms of the marketing. It's a simple case of value proposition and offer and solution, right? If someone has a pain point and you have the solution for that and you get in front of the right type of buyer, there's no reason why, if you don't have the right funnels and the right infrastructure around it, there's no reason why someone doesn't make the decision to move forward and start the conversation at the very least, right? So
Exactly, 100%, I agree.
Yeah, really interesting. So in terms of then, you've obviously been running your businesses for many years now. What's the biggest lesson you can share with us today for the viewers and listeners?
I think I've been trying to run business for a long time now. Like I was trying to start a business since I finished high school, And I was always afraid. I always thought like, oh, it's for big boys. It's for like people with specific skills, specific mindset. Like you have to have this, you have to have these skills. But once you start, like you start learning all these skills, and no one is born with default installed skills, like everything is learned or taught. And with the amount of information available on the internet, you can really teach yourself like certain things, like in sales, marketing, and recruiting, team management, operations, everything. Everything is doable. And even if you don't have this access to if you are too lazy to go through like courses or trainings, like on the internet, you can still learn it hard way by trying and failing, Yeah. So I think the most challenging step for a lot of people is to open up the business, and not give up. So if you open up the business and keep consistently pushing, the results will be there, Yeah. Because you keep pushing, you experimenting. It's with marketing, right? You're a marketing guy, and you have to experiment, If you have to do one channel, if it's not working, you have to check why it's not working. You have to try different channel.
Yeah.
And if you do cold emails, you have to try different copies. If you do Google ads or meta ads, like you have to see if this creative is not exactly great, design is pretty bad, you have to try that. With the software, same thing. Like you say why customers are churning, like you have to say, okay, maybe UX design is not that great. Maybe the application is lagging, so you all like have to analyze what's happening and learn from there, the business grows that way. I always recommend people to do side hustles first. I usually don't recommend people to go all in with a limited amount of funding and then just basically fail and then go back to the corporate again. I think all about experimenting and trying it, and just don't give up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there with that. Especially, it's constant optimizations, right? You want to be constantly, you might be going down the wrong direction completely, but just by making the decision of going down that direction, you can change that. You can learn to change direction. If you're too busy standing at the starting line and you don't make a move, you're never going to know which way the right way is. And you're going to always be stunted by your limiting belief that everything has to be right the first time round, right? And
I agree.
Yeah. Well, Lenar, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. It's been a great conversation. I like to end every single podcast with the same question, right? And it is, if you had a magic wand you could wave to solve one business problem, what would that be?
I don't know, operations. Please take me away from operations.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Biggest headache.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Lenar, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. You've been a great guest. For all those out there that are looking, might want to reach out to you, speak to you, where would they go? How can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is open and email is open. I'm always like open to connecting with the right people and connecting with the right partners, and thanks, Said, for having me here. It was great podcast and great questions, and I wish you best of luck with future episodes and with your business as well.
Thank you very much. All right, then. Have a great one.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.